Please use the MyPubble portal to apply for the Community Centre's Investment Fund. We recommend using either Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge as your browser for this. Sign in with your registered account details and select Community Centre's Investment Fund under Programme and Programme Call. The default landing page is the Information section. Right-click on this link to open the Community Centre's Investment Fund webpage in a new tab. Regularly check this webpage for the most up-to-date information and resources. To access the online application form, click on Funding. Select Community Centre's Investment Fund. To start your application, click Apply. This checklist is provided to assist in preparing what you will need to complete your application. It is not a mandatory section. It's a good idea to regularly save your work. At the end of each section, there is the option to save your data and exit the form, or to save and continue on to the next step. There are 10 steps to the application form. You can use this bar along the top to see the various steps. If you're on a page and you want to look at a different step, you'll need to save the work on the page that you have open. Otherwise, what you have filled in on this page will be lost. When a form is in draft, you can edit text and add or remove attachments. Once submitted, no further changes can be made to your application. At step 1, you will see the details of your organisation as were provided at registration stage. Please read these carefully. If they are all up to date, please select No and click Save and Continue. If any details need to be updated, the primary authorised user can make some changes by clicking on their username and selecting Organisation Details. Click Edit Organisation to make the relevant changes in the fields that can be updated. Then click Update Organisation. If you see any other details that need to be amended, please email onlinesupport@pubble.ie. Many of the questions are required fields. This means information must be entered into these boxes in order for you to continue on to the next step. If you skip one of these fields, an error message will appear at the top of the page. Required fields are indicated in red. Many text boxes have a maximum limit of 2,000 characters. This includes spaces. Your answer to this question should provide a good description of what happens in your community centre on a regular basis, the facilities and activities it offers to the local community, and the range of people using it every week or month. It might be difficult to give an exact number of people who use your centre, so an estimation here is fine. Your response to this question is an opportunity to demonstrate if your organisation has experience managing public funding or philanthropic funding in the past. If your organisation has received funding in the past 3 years, select Yes and click Add Funding to enter details. Name the funder. This might be a government department or agency or another source of public or philanthropic funding. Name the funding programme or scheme and the amount awarded. For year, please enter the date the funding period started. In this example, I'm saying the 1st of January of this year. Click Save and you should see the funding appear in the relevant section. Please continue in this way for any other relevant funding streams. While the application is still in draft, you can edit, delete, or add to any of these lines, budget lines, or attachments. To add a document to the form, click Add Document. Enter the name of your document, so here I'm saying Constitution as my governing document. Click Choose File, select the relevant document, and click Save. Repeat this step if you have more than one document relevant to this section. The maximum size of any document that you can upload is 30 megabytes. You may have already submitted your most recent audited accounts to Publi this year. If you know this is the case, please select Yes and continue. If not, please select No and follow the previous steps to add document. If you're not a company, then you might not have audited accounts or an annual financial statement. If this is the case, please submit an income and expenditure statement along with your balance sheet for the most recent financial year. In Section 3, please demonstrate how your board or management committee has good governance and controls in place that would ensure effective management of the funding and of your project. Wherever you see a drop-down arrow, click on it to expand the list of options and select the relevant answer. Wherever you see this information icon, hover your cursor over it to see some tips to help you in completing the form. Enter a title for your project and a succinct description of the work you would undertake with the funding. Make sure this is very clear and that it would make sense to someone from outside your community or your organisation who knows nothing about your centre. Select the date by which you propose your project will be complete with all invoices paid up in full. This should be before the 31st of January 2024. If the community centre address and your organisation address already saved on this system are the same, please choose Yes and continue. If they're different, please choose No and enter the community centre address. If you enter the centre's area code and click Search, the address should auto-populate. Step 5 is where you can really show that your project is a good fit for what the community centre's investment fund aims to achieve. Before completing the questions, please once again carefully read the application guidelines, particularly the section on selection criteria. Use your answers here to demonstrate that the improvements you propose for your centre are needed and represent good value for the level of investment. Be very clear here on how the upgrades would directly benefit the people using your centre. Priority for this funding will be given to applicants who demonstrate that their project would directly benefit more marginalised or vulnerable people in your community, and to applications that involved the community in their design. Please use step 6 to explain how your community were involved in identifying the needed improvements to your centre. To enter your budget, choose a category from the menu. For this example, I will choose category 1. Enter the amount that your project will cost overall, bearing in mind the information available when you hover your cursor over this eye symbol. There's an overall limit to the project budget applicable to each category. For category 1, this is €30,000. From consultation with local community groups who regularly use the community centre in my example, a need has been identified for a refurbishment of the centre's kitchen. The maximum I can seek for this category is €25,000. From research I've conducted online and in consultation with tradespeople and suppliers, I have prepared an estimated budget for a total of €23,000. I'm seeking this total amount from the fund. There's no match funding for this project, and for category 1, that's okay. For categories 2 or 3, at least 5% of the grant amount sought must be match funding. For example, an organisation's own resources or funds committed through an approved loan or other grant. In this example, I'm saying that my organisation is registered for value-added tax. So I'm making sure that I've removed the VAT portion of costs in my budget, as I can claim this back. If your organisation is not registered for VAT, click No. Now I'm going to add my budget line by line by clicking Add Budget. For category 1, all costs are capital costs. For categories 2 and 3, project costs would be fees for professionals such as engineers, architects, or quantity surveyors, and this fee can be claimed up to a limit of 10% of the total project cost. So I'm going to start here with building materials. In my rationale, I'll explain what this cost is for, and you can provide here any details that you feel might be relevant and why the cost is needed. When I click Save and Continue, a new window appears. I'm entering a total of €2,000 here just for the purposes of this example, and as this is a cost under €5,000, I don't need to add any supporting evidence to the cost. So I can just go ahead and save it. And now I'll add the next budget line. I'm categorizing the fitted kitchen under fixtures and fittings. As this is a bespoke bulk piece, I have no unit price I can give. I will include in the rationale, however, that this cost includes fitting costs and any other information that justifies the cost, as this is a rather large cost item. As the total is over €5,000, I will support it with a quotation from the supplier. To do this, I click Add Document. There are two options under Document Type. Your supporting evidence might be a quotation. Select Other if it is an estimate prepared by a tax-registered tradesperson or a screenshot from a web retailer, for example, for equipment or for appliances. You can choose your file and select Submit. These documents serve to support your application only. Should your application be successful, public procurement guidelines should be followed. Depending on the level of expenditure, it may be necessary to undertake a procurement process, which is separate to any quotations or estimates that you are getting to prepare your budget and support this application. Suppliers who provide your quotation now will therefore not necessarily be the ones who provide goods and services when it comes to actually carrying out your project. You can edit budget lines and add or remove attachments while your application is still in draft. Once you're happy with your budget, click Save and Continue. In Step 8, please select Yes or Not Required for each document on the checklist. If you answer Yes to a document, please upload it below, or check that you have already uploaded it in a previous step. You'll see any documents already uploaded here at the bottom. In this step, you also have the option to upload any additional information which you feel is relevant and would support your application. To find out whether or not each of these is required for your application and what documents should be uploaded for each, please check the most up-to-date application guidelines and frequently asked questions document on the Community Centres Investment Fund webpage. If planning permission is required for your project, please make sure your evidence document includes the code for your approved or submitted planning application. Depending on your circumstances, one document, such as a letter, might be sufficient as evidence of both a lease or rental agreement and permission to undertake the proposed work from the building owner. Match funding is only required for applications to categories 2 and 3. If your organisation is legally incorporated, the board or management committee will have appointed a primary authorised user to submit this application. As PAU, this person has the delegated authority from the board or committee to sign contracts and be registered on this portal on the organisation's behalf. Please submit a redacted minute from a board or committee meeting confirming approval for this. Please read the Disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act text and outline any sensitive information in the text box. If this isn't relevant to the content of your application, please enter Not Applicable. Tick this box to confirm that you have read and agreed the data protection statement, and tick this box below to confirm that you have read and agreed the application submission statement. We're coming to the end of the process now. At the top of the page, any step which has a required field left incomplete will be highlighted. To easily review your entries under any of the steps, click to expand the sections. You have the option to print or export a PDF version of your application. To do this, click Print. Either export as a PDF, or if printing the document out, we recommend adjusting your printer settings. Reduce the scale to 65% and the margins to none. If you exit the form now, remember that it is not yet submitted. It is still in draft, which means you can still make edits to your text or add and remove any uploaded documents. If you choose to exit the form and to submit it later, please do not forget to return and finally submit. Any applications still in draft format after the closing date of Thursday, the 14th of July 2022 at 3 p.m. cannot be considered for funding. It might be a good idea to set a reminder for yourself in the days prior to this deadline and to log back in and make sure your application is definitely submitted. Once you're satisfied that everything is correct, click Submit. This confirmation message will appear to let you know that your application was submitted successfully. Once again, the closing date for this fund is Thursday, the 14th of July 2022 at 3 p.m. Support is available by emailing ccif@drcd.gov.ie.